So we're going to start off by taking a look at the Nuvo Brush Script pens, and you will see that they come in this lovely white container that has the color indicator at both the end and in the cap. So this cap actually has a nice little metal clip. Not that I'm sure you'd want to clip it on things, I don't particularly use them that way, but it does keep them from rolling off of the table. Also on each barrel, it will tell you a color as well, which is also pretty handy. So let's take a look at the nib itself, and I'm gonna just come on in a little bit so you can see that. This is kind of a cross between a Zig Real Brush and a Tombow marker. So it has a very narrow pointed but felt tip. So this is one piece. It's not a number of little bristles, it is one bristle. As you can see, it's also very juicy. And when you press down on it, you can get a nice wide or a more narrow type of brush stroke here. So then if you push down and lift up, you will get more of a controlled brush stroke. Now, I understand that these were made for brush script. However, I'm going to tell you, in my opinion, right off the bat, these are not very firm. It's only like a medium firm nib, which means that I can push down on it and get that nice broad stroke, but I can't get it to lift up very quickly. It doesn't spring back. So I don't think it's actually fantastic for brush lettering. And I will just kind of give you a little demo here. Now granted, my brush lettering is not great, but I just don't feel like the brush tip is really firm enough to pull this off super successfully. However, these are a water-based marker and they're good for a lot of applications, and so I'm going to show you a couple. Now, before I get ahead of myself, I do want to point out that they do sell these in packs of 3 in the Nuvo markers. So in, let's see, do I have the name of that on hand? No, of course it's on the front. So in the essential tones, you're going to get your gray, your brown, and your black. In Vivid Kaleidoscope, you're going to get a red, a green, and a teal. In Mandala Infusion, you're going to get orange, purple, and an indigo. And in the Floral Brights, you're going to get your lemon yellow, kind of a salmony pink color, and then also a lighter lavender. And again, these all have numbers, so you can kind of keep track of them, but they're sold in sets of 3, which you may love or you may not. That's just kind of a personal opinion thing. So here I've actually swatched out all of the colors in no particular order, showing you both the thick line and a thin line, how it works with a little bit of script lettering, which is not, it's not too bad, and then also just a little bit of blending. And the reason why I did this is I actually went ahead and I did this on both a standard cardstock and a smooth kind of, this is called One Sheet Wonder. It's a very smooth cardstock, great for stamping, but I want to show you there are some significant differences depending on which paper you use. So let's go ahead, and I'm just going to go ahead and add some water to this watercolor paper, and I'm going to let that sit a minute, and I'm going to do the same thing here to the heavy duty smooth cardstock, and you can see already that the colors are lifting off of the watercolor. And if I go ahead and brush it to the side, or I could use a paper towel, it will lift very quickly and move, which is kind of fun because it's nice to be able to double your watercolor markers also as like true watercolors. But if you see, I do the same thing here on the One Sheet Wonder cardstock. It erases it, it lifts it, but it doesn't move it. You don't get that ability to move the paper or the color. So again, this is One Sheet Wonder, this is watercolor paper. I can kind of dab it aside and you can see the difference. Now, what's interesting about this is if you use the brush script markers on regular cardstock, it's almost going to act like a distress stain that you can make little water marks on it. But if you use it on watercolor paper, it's going to act more like a true watercolor, and you'll be able to actually move it around, which I just think is very interesting, and I'll show you again in another stamped image. So knowing that a lot of us use our markers also to color in stamped images, I wanted to show you the difference between regular cardstock and watercolor paper. So I'll show you this again here kind of live in the moment so you can see, but if you put down some watercolor marker on paper, you can kind of put it down like so, then you can go back with a little bit of water in a water brush or just a regular, and then maybe move it around a little bit. But the truth is that these markers on traditional cardstock don't want to move. They just kind of don't. They grab onto the paper and they stay put, which is actually really great if you're doing brush lettering. However, if you do that same thing here on watercolor paper, and I will do that again live for you, you can take two colors like this yellow and a green, add a little bit of water, and you can actually really move it around and create another color or fill in an area. You just have a lot more options. So if you like to use your markers for stamping images and coloring them in, by all means use watercolor paper, because you will get some really pretty effects and you can use them for that, absolutely. Now, you also may notice that I have a little bit of lettering here with two colors. Well, that's because these markers are also able to do the tip-to-tip transfer technique. And we use this a lot with other markers with felt tips. So notice what I can do is I can take a darker color and touch the tip to a lighter color, like so. And it's actually transferring ink from one nib into another, like so. It just takes a few minutes, not even a minute. And now what I can do is write with my yellow marker, but green is what's going to come out. And as I continue to draw with it, it's going to get lighter and lighter. And you're going to start to see that yellow come through. And even in part of this, you can see how it's kind of green on one side and yellow on the other. And that's just really kind of a fun technique to do. So here on this side, you can see where I've done a couple of versions of that technique and also trying to practice that brush lettering. So I think if you have probably a steadier hand than mine, you'll get a little bit more out of the script part of it. But I like the markers on the whole. Here are just a few more examples where I practiced stamping on watercolor paper and then using the Nuvo brush script markers to kind of color around the edges and then drag the color in. And you can see I got some really nice vibrant color. And then here's just another example of kind of some practice blending on top. So I'm going to finish off with a little more of a demo. This is an ultra speed draw, but I just want to show you that I'm actually using this on a watercolor coloring page, and I love them for watercolor coloring. This is so much fun. That fine point makes it easy to get into little bitty areas, and the fact that it's watercolor means that I can blend things around. So in this little demo, first you saw me put down the color and then use a regular brush to go ahead and spread it around. Now what I've done is I've put a little bit of the Nuvo brush script marker on an acrylic block with a little bit of water and a little bit of Delicata, and I use it like an actual paint. And then this last section, I'm going ahead and doing that tip transfer technique so that I'm getting some really cool gradients and ombres there. So on the whole, these are markers I absolutely am going to keep and use. I'm going to keep practicing with the brush scripting, and hopefully my lettering will get a little bit better and I will achieve greater control. So it's a great all-around versatile marker for a pretty good price point for any of you who are interested in doing markers or coloring. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review and demo. Please leave me a comment. Look in the description for links to discounts and deals, and take a look at the end caps for more videos that you may find helpful and or informative. Again, thanks for watching and have a crafty day.